Super Bowl starters back. Only team in the Super Bowl era to do this. All of them back. Their top 16 snap count leaders on offense back. Their top 21 snap count leaders on defense back. All the coordinators back. Head coach back. Never been done. Unprecedented. And I don't remember the last NFL team that had this many Pro Bowl level players on it, but with no holes. Seattle's got a high-end players, but they got some holes in the secondary. The Rams, again, they got some star players, but they got some holes. The Dallas Cowboys have star players, but a lot of holes in the back end. The 49ers, by the way, great players, but holes. It is virtually, in the last 15 years, I cannot think of a roster that's got stars everywhere and essentially is just drafting for depth. They're going to probably take a quarterback and a running back, and none of those guys will play. Anybody they draft, not going to play much. This, of course, is the opposite of what Green Bay is willing to do because Tampa Bay has an advantage. Their history is overwhelmingly briefly great or irrelevant. So Tampa Bay doesn't feel a burden to be relevant. I covered the Buccaneers. I was there. They were irrelevant when I was there. I left. They got relevant great fast. Tampa Bay's entire history is great briefly or irrelevant. There's no pressure. It's like newfound money. It's not family money where you're protecting grandpa and dad's money. Tampa Bay's never had any money. This is their 15 minutes of fame. They don't give a rip. They're going to go all in. Green Bay, meanwhile, is so terrified of the lows, they're not willing to push any money down the road to get highs now. If you go look at Favre and Aaron Rodgers, they only won Super Bowls early in their career when they weren't expensive. The minute Favre and Rodgers did not win Super Bowls is after their big contract. Because in order to win a Super Bowl, when you're paying a quarterback a lot, you've got to push money way down the road. But Tampa doesn't care. Arians is going to retire in a couple years. Brady's going to retire in a couple years. The history of the franchise, the owners, we've been irrelevant for decades. We're fine. Sometimes there is an advantage to not having a great history. I've said this before. When I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, the University of Washington had a history of being very competent for about 30 years with Don James. So when he left, they played it safe. A lot of anybody connected to Don, they hired. They didn't want to take any big risks. Oregon was irrelevant my whole life. And so they would take big swings on coaches. Chip Kelly from New Hampshire, they didn't care. They had 300 uniforms. Washington once tried to change uniforms. The fans were outraged. USC deals with some of this now. Their history, they're paralyzed by it. Oregon was never paralyzed by it. They had no history. They named a stadium after a coach with a losing record. They just went for it. 300, do this, do that. You're not beholden to anybody. And so Tampa Bay's got no history. So they don't give a rip. They're going to push all the money down the road, win now, max their credit cards, take a big risk, try to win another Super Bowl. It'll be somebody else's problem in 2 years that they have no money. They're going to do what the Saints did. And by the way, why did the Saints go all in on Breeze? What is their history? Great briefly or awful? And so Saints are like, we're going all in. If we win a second Super Bowl with Breeze, we don't have to win a Super Bowl for 10 years. Stadium's packed. But Green Bay has been so competent and so capable for 30 years. They are terrified of being irrelevant like they were in the 70s and 80s, and they won't push money down the road. They could easily push Aaron's money down the road. Easily. They won't do it. They're terrified by it. Okay, we've got another story on the Denver Broncos and the quarterback situation, and I'll ask you, athlete. That's a great Monday. What I don't want Monday is we traded Garoppolo so we could draft a win-now quarterback, and by week 8, he's playing, and he's not clearly anything close to Kyler Murray or Russell Wilson athletically, and has a BB gun compared to Matt Stafford as an arm. That's a bad Monday. So I don't get the win-now guy or the high-ceiling guy. And I think it all comes down to not Mac Jones or Trey Lance, because I would take Trey Lance. Because my belief is Kyle Shanahan's, all 5 of these guys would win with Shanahan. All of them. I've even said, I don't like Mac Jones. I think he'll win. You're not going to win the divisions. You're not going to win Super Bowls. You're going to win with Kyle Shanahan. He went with Matt Schaub. He wins with Kirk Cousins. He wins with everybody. He made Matt Ryan an MVP. Okay? He wins with it. All of these guys will work with him. But why would I want a low ceiling? But it doesn't come down to Mac or Trey. It comes down to Jimmy Garoppolo. The Niners, rightly so, are concerned that Garoppolo not only can't stay healthy, he gets hurt in September. And if he gets hurt again, he has no value. Nothing. You can't get anything for him. That's true. But couldn't I argue this? In a world we live in today, where even the Niners give up multiple first-round picks, to draft a college quarterback where they don't know if he'll succeed. Who cares if you don't get anything out of Jimmy Garoppolo? Just think about this. You only gave up a second-rounder for him, and he got you to a Super Bowl. He won you a division title. If he gets hurt and Trey Lance has to play a little early, all right, wasn't meant to be. But don't be paralyzed. I thought about this driving in today. You really got everything out of Jimmy Garoppolo you could want for a second-round pick. I mean, he came with an injury history, right? He came with one. You didn't know if he was going to be great. That's why you only gave up a second-round pick, and that's why New England only got a second-round pick. I mean, these quarterbacks out of college now are getting 3 first-round picks. Okay, Jimmy got a second. He got you to a Super Bowl. Just don't worry about it. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt, and Trey Lance plays earlier than you'd like. But do you really think Mac Jones is ready to win the NFC West over Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, and Kyler Murray? If San Francisco just thinks about it this way, we got everything possible out of Jimmy Garoppolo, and you don't worry about getting anything in return. We didn't pay him $30 million. We didn't pay him $40 million. We gave up a second-round pick. You could get a second-round pick now for a right tackle. And he got us to a Super Bowl. So we don't care what we get out of him. Let's just keep him as long as he's upright. We're not going to sign him to another contract, but we're going to keep him as long as we can, cross our fingers on health, and let the much greater athlete with a much bigger arm and the much better body and the much higher ceiling Trey Lance develop. That, to me, feels low risk. I got the win Super Bowl now guy or get to the Super Bowl now guy. I got the high ceiling guy. If I'm San Francisco fan and I wake up Monday and I got lowest ceiling guy in the toughest division with 3 super talented quarterbacks, and I don't have Garoppolo. So I'm probably not going to be great now, and I'm not sure I'm going to be great later. Instead, if Garoppolo's healthy, we're really good now, can win the division, and Trey Lance has a chance to be a superstar later. Nobody thinks Mac Jones is going to be a superstar. He's Kirk Cousins. So I know we roll our eyes at fans, but if you're a fan Monday, I'd feel way better about keep Jimmy G, squeeze every last ounce of juice out of that orange. Like, who cares what you get for him? You only give up a second-round pick for him, and then I get the ceiling guy. But the story is interesting because it comes from Adam Schefter. He's tied to the Shanahans. What would I do? Take Trey Lance, keep Jimmy G. What are they going to do, my guess? Trade Jimmy G, fear that he gets hurt, they get nothing, and take Mac Jones. And this is just covering their butt. Showing a little interest for other guys. All right, so the Herd, by the way, brought to you by Jersey Mike Subs. Be a sub above. So the Buccaneers did sign Antonio Brown. Eventually. Team-friendly deal. So this is noteworthy, and I'll read this to you. The Buccaneers have all 22 Super Bowl starters back. Only team in